Hi, everyone. Welcome to the second edition of Alpha Live on the Anvis page. My name is Antalina, and I'm a puppy trainer with Anvis. I have two experts with me today, Anand Vishwanath and Preeti Narayanan. Preeti is just joining us in a minute. Today, we are going to talk about getting home another pet and what are the pros and cons of doing that. So we will get started in just about a minute. We'll wait for Preeti to join and a few more audiences to join us. Okay, we have Preeti now.
Hi, I'm so sorry.
Okay. All right. So we'll get started with introducing our experts. We have in our panel Anand. Anand is the pack leader of Anvis Inc. He started his career in the corporate world as a telecom engineer. And in 2010, he decided to take a sabbatical, like after 12 years of working with the corporate. And during the sabbatical, he started walking dogs as an informal service. And he soon realized that being around pets was his calling. So without wasting any time, he did a bit of research on survival and sustainability before quitting his corporate job for good. And it was a good thing for all of us because then Anvis was born. Anvis today has a range of services like dog walking, pet sitting, pet boarding, puppy training, pet relocation, and expert consultations. Recently, Anvis also launched a learning academy called Alpha for pet enthusiasts and pet lovers who want to make a career in the pet industry. Although Anand has been, associated with dogs of various sizes, breeds, personalities, he went ahead and got certified as a animal behaviorist under the very experienced John Rogerson of the Northern Center of Canine Behavior in UK. Currently, Anand is owned by 6 mascots who live at the Anvis Pet Center. Anand, welcome, and hopefully we'll have a good interactive session today.
Hey, thank you so much for the kind introduction, Antlina. Yeah, of course, looking forward to this amazing discussion that we have lined up today. So thank you once again for having me here.
Great. All right, I will move ahead and introduce our next panelist, who is Preeti. Preeti is our pet quality of life expert and has been working with dogs for more than 3 decades now. She has been volunteering at shelters as a teenager and got into the world of dog shows. And after quitting a corporate life again, she decided to dive full-time into the doggy world. She was one of the few breeders of the wire hair Dachshunds and Irish setters, and later moved on to providing pet services like home boarding. She worked with Cessna for about 6 years in the surgical and inpatient units before embarking on her current entrepreneurial ventures. Presently, Preeti runs a grooming salon at Wagville in Bangalore. She also designs and makes games for dogs at Happy Tails and works as a consultant trainer and expert at Anvis. Preeti, welcome to the session and looking forward to an interesting discussion.
Hi guys, nice to be here. I'm looking forward to this session. Thanks, Angelina.
You're welcome. So to the audience, please feel free to ask any questions that you may have related to your multi-pet household, or if you're thinking of bringing home another pet, right? You're free to ask questions. Please type in your questions in the chat box, and we will ask our experts at the right time. Okay, so let's get started then. To begin with, a lot of times, many of us hear that pet parents saying, my dog is feeling lonely and bored. I hope my dog had company. Should I bring in another dog? Is this a good reason to bring home a dog, Anand?
So let me start by saying yes and no, because and let me try and clarify what I mean by that. Obviously, yeah, right. So there is already a dog in the house. You've got used to that particular dog. Dog has got used to you guys. So everything is running in clockwork precision. Everything is going all right. But them being dogs being dogs, right, need also to have the company of other dogs, right? And that's when they can do a lot of other things that we as humans are not able to provide to them, right? We can provide them with food, we can provide them with love and attention, we can provide them with a lot of other things, but we can never really go down to do the whole, you run, I chase you kind of a game, right? It's just never the same. We can never match their speed, we cannot match their capability. We will never be able to, like how some dogs would play, right? One will be down, the other one will be on them, and they'll be biting their neck, and they'll be doing all kinds of things. As humans, there are certain things that we will just not be able to do, and that is something that I strongly believe that dogs do miss, when they are completely in the company of humans. Second is, I think we tend to start looking at, as dogs, we start to sort of humanize them, and we start trying to get them into situations, scenarios, which is more so humanized, and then we forget that they have a canine side to them, and hence, there is that one part of it that kind of gets missing in a dog's life. So from those, I think from those reasons, I do feel that it is good to have dogs should have company of their own kind, right? The reason I said no in many cases, again, this is situation based. I think it is that the reason for bringing another dog should be well thought through, right? And the reason about saying that, hey, my dog is feeling lonely and bored, to bring in another dog, I think that may not be the right reason. So reason should be right, because the reason a dog may perhaps be feeling bored or lonely is because we as humans have not spent enough time engaging with them, right? And there is obviously a breakdown in some kind of the bonding, right? So I think that is something that we need to look at to see if we have provided them everything and it is just the companionship that is missing, or is it that we have something that we have not fulfilled, and by bringing in another dog is just going to, I feel in these scenarios, bringing in another dog is just going to add more complexities, because we as humans, if we have not fulfilled that whole bonding and that kind of a thing, bringing another one is just double the trouble, in my opinion.
Got it. So in that case, the next question, right, which is around a common behavior that we see in pets today, because pet parents are out to work, the dog is alone at home. Again, from boredom, they feel lonely. Some dogs are also anxious, right? They suffer from anxiety. So do you think bringing in another dog can help an anxious dog calm down or settle in when pet parents are not around?
Again, so we have seen instances where an anxious dog actually is anxious because either the dog is being left alone at home or is completely got attached to the human, and does not want to see, which is basically separation anxiety, right? The minute the human steps out, then the dog gets completely stressed, etc., etc. In some cases, bringing in another dog and slowly introducing it to this dog, so that the dependency on the humans or one particular person is actually now is being taken care by another dog. In some cases, it does help, but again, this is not something. It's not a one size that fits all, right? I will obviously say that if there are cases where pets are undergoing separation anxiety, before bringing another dog, saying, hey, this is a quick fix, try and talk to a behaviorist, or try and talk to somebody who's in the space, understand your dog really well before you make this decision.
Okay. So it's just like saying all 5 fingers are not of the same size, right? Similarly, not all dogs are same. So we need to gauge the situation and how accepting the other dog is.
Absolutely.
Great. So moving on, I think Preeti is having trouble with her network, so we'll wait for her to join in. But and at the same time, we'll just continue talking. So my next question to you is, in that case, what are the pros and cons of bringing in another dog?
Right. So see, pros will obviously be that, right? So pros will just mean that the dog has got the company of another dog to play with. There are certain things that we as humans will not be able to do with dogs can, right? Like say if you get two, if there is you have a dog that is already sort of high on energy, and then you bring in another dog which is also high on energy, they can keep constantly playing, right? Given that you have enough time and in the house, they can constantly keep playing, which means their energy is dissipated, and they can play games that both are even, right? So they can do it's called a prey predator game, right? One will run and then the other will chase, and then suddenly roles will be reversed, and then this other one will run and then that one will chase, right? So energy is obviously high amount of energy is dissipated, so they are able to remain fit. It is very similar, right? If you ask me pros and cons, I think it is very similar to people having a single kid at home versus having multiple kids at home, right? So again, there are pros and cons of that, right? But one of the biggest thing I feel is that dogs get to spend time, or they get to do the things that they can do with another dog, which we as humans, no matter how much we try, we will never be able to do that. Right, energy is dissipated, right? If one of the dogs is slightly more well behaved, and you bring in a slightly younger dog, a lot of training actually happens from dog to dog, right? This one will teach the ropes to the younger one. Obviously, I think it has to be that the energies have to match. It should not be like that the younger one ends up spoiling the older one. That also happens in some cases, so that's your con right there. But I think the biggest con would typically be, for me, when you have more than one dog, two, three, whatever, everything is 2x of it, right? So let's say for some reason, if one dog falls sick, and it's an airborne infection or it's a waterborne infection or something, you have to deal with two dogs, right? Because taking care of one sick dog itself is can be a huge thing. Taking care of two, or ensuring this one does not come in contact with that, can be a challenge. There could be other issues that can come up, which is basically behavioral issues, right? Someone is eating like food. With one dog, they don't have that thing about, is my food being taken, is it mine, or I have to share it? So they need to learn the concept of sharing, right? They cannot be fighting. So sometimes it does become really bad. The other thing is, anything more will be like, even if you have to step out with one dog, it's so much more easier, right? You just have to taking one dog out is a lot more easier when compared to two dogs, right? So everything becomes double, right? Love and affection, of course, is also double, but the other side of it, all the other things, day-to-day challenges that are there, also becomes true. And very simple thing, and I know someone was telling me this, is if for some reason they have accidents in the house, one dog poop is just that much. Two can be like a lot, right?
Absolutely, you can have a poop-filled home, a poop party.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Preeti, would you like to add to that? We were discussing pros and cons of getting another pet. So maybe top 3 pros and top 3 cons from you.
Sure. First up, I'm really sorry, guys. I've just been having a really, really bad day with my internet. And as you can see, I've been popping in and out of the session. But hopefully, I'm here for a while at least.
We are good now. We can see you and hear you well. So, yeah, go ahead.
So I caught wind of what Anand was saying, and I have to agree with him. I personally have lived in a home where we've always had a multi-dog household. At least, I think from the time that I was 13, 14 years old, I've lived in a multi-dog household. And I've always felt that I could not provide for the dogs what they could provide for each other. So there's so many things that go right, in a multi-dog household. I think that as an equation, dog to dog, there is something there that we simply can't be. I keep telling people, we can't be another dog. Right? I think that is, the games that they play, the stuff that they do with each other, the comfort that they derive from each other. I don't know how. I don't see any way that we can really duplicate that. However, I have to agree with everything Anand said on the cons front. It's not easy. When you have one dog, like you said, it's easier to pick up, to go anywhere. You need to put the dog in boarding, or you want to take the dog with you to the store, you're going somewhere. It's all so much easier. But the moment that you move into a multi-dog situation, and in my home right now, I have 10. So there is no question of my dogs going anywhere with me. I have to pick and choose. Today is Mischief's turn to go for a car ride, and tomorrow is Penny's turn to go for a car ride. So it's complicated. Boarding is not even an option that I can ever think of. So that means travel is what travel are we talking about? So many things can change. But it comes down to, I think, the first set of dogs that you have, or the first dog that you have. So how much time and effort did you put into that first dog? Because the lessons that that first dog has learned and how well they have learned them is what is going to translate to the next dog and the next and the next and the next. So today you
So
asked me, yeah,
we will be touching upon that, right? About, how much time should you spend with your first dog, and what kind of behaviors should your first dog display to you for you to even think of bringing a second one, right?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, such an
it's
important thing,
interesting.
such an important thing.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you brought up a multi-pet household, right? So that leads me into my next question, which is, how much importance does the space in the house, the people in the house, and the overall environment in the house impact the decision of bringing another dog? Preeti,
I
if you
think
can answer that, yeah.
so I think that everybody needs to be involved in this decision, right? Whatever it is, at the end of the day, it's not like I have one cushion and I got a second cushion, right? I have one dog, a live, living being that needs that much of time, energy, walking, training, playing, exercise, food, everything. There is a financial impact. There is an impact on how on your own time. You may not be able to walk both the dogs together, which means you have to walk them separately, keeping them engaged. It is something that impacts everybody. Getting the first dog impacts everybody else. Getting the second dog impacts everybody just as much. The other thing is that unless everybody buys into this concept, everybody in the home is buying into the fact of having a second dog and is contributing to the load of the work. Okay, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Right. So if it was tough for one person to be the caretaker and to kind of be responsible for the first dog, it's impossible for that one person to continue to be the caretaker for both the dogs. Everybody in the home has to take part. So everybody has to be involved in this decision. Everybody has to buy in. Everybody has to pitch in. So yeah, I think it's a full household decision. Yes, Anand, what do you think?
Yeah, Preeti, no, I agree. I think it is very true. What you're saying. Everybody has to buy in, right? As it is with the first dog, like everybody has to be a family decision. I think the second dog also it's the same thing, because I think most people tend to think that, hey, now that we've had one dog, bringing in another dog is not too much of a challenge, right? We have seen this and we have gone through that. But many cases, I think also from personal experience, when you bring in, like you rightly said, it is not another like a cushion that you bring in, right? That dog will come in with its own set of personalities, will have its own set of characteristics. The integration has to happen with the family members, with the existing dog, so on and so forth, right? So it has to be a well thought through decision. However, for me, I just like to add here that I have seen that it has a very positive impact on the dogs as such. But end of the day, it is us humans who have to ensure their well-being in terms of food, in terms of time, exercise, financial commitments, etc. So unless you're completely ready, I think you need to really rethink that.
Thanks, Anand and Preeti. So we are getting some questions from our viewers, and let me just tell them that I will put up your questions in just a bit. It's an important topic that we have to go into now, which is which Anand rightly said, that their behavior with each other, right? So let's now talk about will bringing in a second dog impact the behavior of the first dog, or impact the behavior of both dogs? How can that it can go both ways, right? So if you can explain to our viewers a bit on that.
Anand, do you want to get started?
Sorry about
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think the primary question is why are you bringing the first? I mean, why are you bringing the second dog, right? I think that needs to be clear. The reason why we're bringing in a second dog, right? Once we're clear with that, what can you expect with the first dog, right? So I think the second step is once you've understood that, hey, for whatever reason, right? I know these are the reasons. Now I want to bring in a second dog, and once that decision is made, then you want to evaluate the whole thing, like how you would evaluate when you got in your first dog, right? Which is typically you're looking at what kind of a family are we, what is our lifestyle, are we an active family, do we like the outdoors, are we indoorsy people, how much time can we provide for the exercise, financially how much can we provide for the dog, all the things that you thought through as a family before you bring in the first dog. You have to redo the exercise now, keeping in mind your dog in the center of in the thing, right? Will my first dog be okay with another dog? And if they are first step, right, it should not be a decision which is like, I need another dog because I just feel that this is going to. So it can't be based on feel, right? It has to be whether your dog is a social, would like another dog coming into his or her space, because so far the dog has really had everything going, right? Then you need to then start evaluating on what are the energy levels, how big is your dog, whether you want to bring in a dog of the same size. It could be, sometimes it could be of the similar breeds, but I think personalities have to match. So you need to go through the whole jing bang of making sure that your first pet is as involved in this decision of bringing the second dog as with anybody else. So it's a family decision with your first dog in place, and only when you think that you will not be changing the dynamics of your existing dog, do you then want to think about bringing in. And when I say not just changing, it should positively impact, the bringing in the second dog should positively impact your first dog, and not the other way around. Preeti?
Absolutely. That I don't. You and I are going to say the same things. You know that, right, Anand? We're going to do each other. But yeah, it's. I think the mistake that we make a lot of the times is to look at our first dog and expect that our second dog is going to be exactly the same as our first dog. I think that is something that we need to say, and something that you said a little earlier, which is that each dog has such a different personality, right? Even though, we may, let's say that I have a lab and I choose to bring in a lab, or in my case, I had, one wire-haired Dachshund, I brought in a second wire-haired Dachshund. To expect that the first one is going to be exactly the same as the second, I think is not right. It's important to understand that they come with their own personalities, their own likes, their own dislikes. One may be needy, one may be independent. There's so many little things that are going on, and you're moving from a situation where you worried about how one dog felt to not only how are both of your dogs doing, but what is the dynamics between the two of them. So, what breed, what dog do I have, a male or a female? Do I get another male or a female? All of these considerations are so important. The other thing that Angelina was also was just saying. I mean, how does it? I think, how does it either impact the dog that you the dog that you already have? It impacts the dog in so many ways. You've taken some attention away from the dog. So let's say that the first dog had a lot of emotional baggage of some sort, and you bring in a second dog, thinking that dog is going to sort the first dog's problems. That's never going to happen, right? So knowing why you're bringing the second dog in is so important. I have a dog who's sorted, who's good, he's in a good place, would love a playmate. Yes, I'm bringing a second dog. But I have this dog that just can't stay alone, has terrible anxiety, is lonely, and therefore I'm going to get a second dog in. You just compounded your problem. You may not have really sorted the problem out at all, but you probably compounded your problem. So there is definitely a huge impact on the dog, on the first dog, when the second dog comes in. And I think it's very important to take that into consideration before you bring a second dog. And Cleta, did we answer your question? I'm not sure we did.
Yes, I mean, a part of it, yes, but I'm sure we're going to discuss more of this as we go into the session, right? So don't worry about it. I'm sure I have the answer. All right. So basically, what I hear from you is having multiple dogs make it about being happy, being responsible, and not being under pressure, right?
Yes.
Because again, it's a commitment for 10 to 15 long years. So please think a lot before making that decision. So we have one question from Leslie Williams. Thank you for joining, Leslie. She says, I lost my beautiful girl and I'm thinking of adopting. Should I get one or two? Leslie was really sorry to hear about your pet. And what I understand from her question is she's saying she wants to bring in two dogs together and not one after the other, right? So Anand, would you like to answer that?
Hey, hi, Leslie. How are you doing? How's Hong Kong? I mean, just for the viewers, we help transport Tinka, who is also very, very close to my heart because she was one of my first moves that I actually flew with, and she was a bulldog. She stayed with us here for some time before we transported her. Yeah, so. Leslie, I know the answer to this question because I know how you guys are, right? And I know how well Tinka was taken care. Very honestly, I think if you ask me, I think you should just go for two dogs. I don't say this very often without really understanding the background, but I know the home that you guys are and how you have really provided for Tinka had. So I think I mean, two dogs would be very, very lucky to have you home. And I say this because I know the background. I mean, otherwise it's not a silver bullet. So I think you should. And maybe whenever the lockdown is there, I will probably come and visit and say hi to both your dogs.
There you go, Leslie. You have a green signal to pick up two dogs right away. All right. Moving ahead, so we just discussed about how it should be a family decision, and you should be aware of whether you can take care of multiple dogs, financially, time with respect to time, with respect of sharing responsibilities. Now, what about from the dog's point of view, right? Say I already have a dog at home. And from that dog's point of view, if I want to really choose a second dog for my home, what are the factors that I should consider? Say I have a 10-year-old Labrador and a 10-year-old Lab, which I feel now needs company, or maybe I want another dog, and that's my reason for bringing a second pet. So what are the different things that I should consider about my 10-year-old Lab before I make a decision? Preeti, you want to start with that?
Yeah, I just pointed at Anand, but you pointed at me. So
I lost my lesson.
Okay. So, I think that the first thing is the situation that you mentioned. You just said, I have a 10-year-old dog and I want to bring in another dog because I think that he needs company. Therein, I think that would not be an ideal situation, right? Now, your dog has lived alone for 10 years and is now at the tail end of his or her life, and really doesn't know, or neither is he at a point in his life when he would enjoy or want to run behind another dog or be hassled by a little young puppy full of energy. He at this has lived too long with you and only you as his companion. So if you are going to get another dog, I would suggest that you don't wait that long. So it's not something that you do when your dog is too young. You have the first dog, maybe wait till the first dog is around 3 or 4 years old, has kind of settled in terms of temperament and personality and all of that. You and your dog have gotten to know each other really well. Your training's in place. You can rely on your dog. You know exactly what your dog's going to do, how your dog's going to behave. And I would think that's really the time to maybe get in the second dog, because they can then still enjoy each other. Your older dog is able to pass on his training to the younger dog. okay, and which kind of will make the situation easier for you, and is also still maybe young enough to be able to enjoy the activity and fun that comes with having a companion. So I would think that that would probably be the first. That would be one consideration. The second thing is that gender does matter. In a lot of cases, gender does matter, and this would also be relevant depending on what is the breed of dog that you have. If you look at what is the first dog that you have, we know that in a lot of cases, one male may not get along with another male, one female may not get along with another female. There are these little things. So put a little bit of time and effort into figuring out the first dog, understand personality, understand what's going on, what is the breed, how well does this breed really do with other dogs, and therefore what kind of dog, what gender or what breed of dog I should be looking at. Anand, I could talk forever. I think you should take on now.
No, pretty much. I mean, I would have said the same thing, Preeti, except that I just feel that maybe this is something I want to add, and this is from personal experience, is that, coming to the question, Antlina, where you are saying that, a 10-year-old lab, and, so probably we expect a 10-year-old, some do much better, but mostly a 10-year-old lab is a little low on energy at the time, sleeps a little, a lot more, likes his or her space a little bit more, like very calm and content around the house, and knows the place around there. However, I just feel that if everything goes well, which is basically you need to be mentally prepared, because as dogs will age like us, right? Older dogs, you will have the we do expect some amount of medical issues to come up, and we need to be prepared mentally, that is emotionally as well as financially. But given these, right, and if you can, why not think about, there are so many older dogs that are constantly up for adoption, as long as the energies can match,
What
right?
a good
So
point, Anand. Really amazing.
Good point. Yes.
Fantastic thought.
right, so as long as you can, right, and I'll also touch upon the cons in this case, but these two can do well in an environment, because you're anyway taking care of a senior dog, and maybe bringing in another senior dog who have even energy. So every once in a while they can perhaps, they will, right, they will interact, and it should just be that you have to be absolutely sure that you're not bringing in it should not be that the first dog that you already have should not be very attached to the home, people, etc., because then bringing another dog will just imbalance the equation. But as long as she is okay and is sorted, then bringing in another dog of almost the same age, or even maybe slightly older, can also work. However, the challenge is, this is not really for people who are who the emotion bit is something that you need to balance with practicality, right? Because taking care of one a senior dog is a challenge by itself, right? It could be medical, it could be the whole fact about the other things. So having two can be quite a bit of a strain on our emotional well-being. As long as you're okay with that, and you're saying, hey, listen, it's all right. I can deal with this one. I can deal with another one. It's okay. If we have to take both to the hospital, let's go both to we have to take them. We will take them. Each will give them company. So which will also just energize the older one just a little bit more, right? So they'll want to come. They'll want to smell. There'll be a little bit of a play. Of course, they will feel tired, but they will. I feel that it may extend, or the quality of life will probably be better. I think I like to compare this to humans itself, senior folks, right? So I have always seen, and I think we've all noticed, that when they have other friends of the same age, and then they're going out for walks together, maybe doing something, like it could be as simple as playing some games together, which just keeps them engaged and occupied, and they want to do this, right? They look forward to. Otherwise they're like, okay, now what do I do, right? I'm retired, and the kids are doing all okay, whatever, right? So they don't have too much to look forward. So that could turn. But again, I say this again from personal experience, you have to be sure that senior dogs come in with that bit of emotional there is that emotional thing. So if you're overly going to see, because you have to balance the practicality with the emotional thing, no matter how it is, right? We know that at some point in time that's going to happen. I'm sure everybody gets this. I get very emotional, but if you're okay with that, I think it's good to have another one of the same kind of an even tempered energy levels.
I want to just add something over here from personal experience, Anand. So one of the things that I've always that I've seen is that bringing when there is a younger dog that comes in, and you have dogs that end of life, and that stage dogs. If you can ensure that your older dog gets his space, can get away, is not in a situation where they have to interact with the other dog, but maybe gets small doses of it, it actually does energize them. It is what you're saying, right? It makes so much of a difference. I've always seen the older dogs perk up when a younger dog comes into the picture, but exactly like you said, you have to, I've always made it a point, and it has been so important to ensure that the older dog is able to get away from the energies of the younger dog, is able to get that space, and you have to be able to provide that. And if you can't provide that, then it becomes really an issue. Then the older dog starts getting really hassled, and then things really turn on their head completely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
I think this is personal experience. I think we won't seen this.
We've both seen that, right? We've both been through this many times.
Even I've had a Doberman who was pretty old when my father decided to bring in Indian Spitz, right? And Lucky, my Doberman, would like to rest, and Mickey, the Spitz, would want to just go jump on her, pull her ears, bite at her, and all of that, right? And we had to literally separate them so that Lucky, who was a little older, could get some rest, because the younger one would just not let her be. Right. So yes, I think it makes a lot of difference, right? And I think, Anand, you made a very good point about adopting senior dogs. A lot of us should look at adopting senior dogs because they have a set way of life, right? You don't have to reinvent the wheel with them. All right. So we have a couple of questions which are on the similar lines. One is from Meena, and she says, I'm going to read out both the questions so that you can take it up together because they're quite similar. So Meena says, what if I'm forced to adopt a second dog, but it doesn't like to stay with other dogs? My first dog is okay to accept the second dog. Then what do we do? Right. So here, Meena, maybe you're saying that, the dog that you're adopting does not like other dogs. But your own dog that you have is okay with other dogs, right? A similar question from Sachit, who is saying he found an abandoned dog and he wants to keep the dog, but his own dog is not very social with other dogs, right? So he's asking for some suggestions from our experts. So Anand, would you like to? So both the questions are of similar lines, right? In one case, the dog that was being adopted was not friendly with other dogs. In this case, Sachit's own dog is not very friendly with other dogs. Go ahead, Anand.
Preeti, are you going?
No.
Okay.
In my head right now, I'm thinking of Oreo, and I'm thinking of Chotu and Frankie, and all things that are going on in my house right now, and I'm just laughing to myself.
Got it. So let me
my experience.
Yeah, while Preeti gathers Anand, you can go ahead.
Okay, so the thing is when it's not a planned thing, right? When for whatever reason, right? Maybe you're not really thinking that you may want to adopt, but circumstance has forced it, right? Let's say you find an abandoned dog, like Sachit is saying, and then you want to bring it home. Maybe Meena is talking of the same thing, right? Where probably she has rescued a dog or something like that. You want to bring it, and then you don't know how you don't even know how your dogs are going to get along with each other or not, right? I think for me, I will say is that you have to play it by the ear. So you'll have to. So here is a situation where we are trying to. It's not a planned thing, right? It has happened. I mean, both have done something good, right? You have brought in a dog home. because perhaps the dog was whatever, right? For whatever reason, right? The dog did not have a home, shelter, etc. You got it. Yeah, things can go from great to it can go to really bad, right? And again, this is from personal experience. I say that you have to go in with you'll have to give it some time. You have to perhaps try and see if they will integrate or not. One of the simplest things I tell people is do not bring both the dogs together and then let them in a space and say, okay, now you figure it out, right? I think that's just not going to be okay, because the dog that has already been living in your home, you don't know that that's her space. She's always been living in that space. Bringing a new person in and say, okay, now you're going to be friends, that's just really not right expectation. So you may want to give them some time, which is basically it's a slightly longish process. But ideally, what we would like to do is we would like to see if you can get them both get the meeting in a neutral environment, not in any one place, right? Maybe like a park in some place, etc. You also do not want them to go like this, right? So ideally, what we do is we are holding two dogs. We allow them to go like this, and then one will react, and then this one will react, and then it will become. So what you want to do is you may want to walk them in like this, right, in parallel. So they may be trying to look at each other, but you still try and say, okay, walk, walk, walk. So what happens is that any kind of nervous energy or any kind of energies that are uneven energies that are there by the walk, you try and dissipate it. You're also, because when this happens and the whole body is goes, the dog is in a different kind of a mode. When this is there, the direction is different, right? And then when you go for a walk, you come back, bring them back into the home, right? Let all of you can enter in, and then you can go. But I personally would suggest keeping them separate for a few days, and then see how they were, because some dogs will just bark. At least the one that is in their house, if they're not very social with other dogs, they will just bark their head off. You also need to be prepared for that. Some dogs will go barking through the day, through the night, etc. Need to be slightly prepared for that. But over a period of time, I think if you do this a few times, which is basically walking them out together, walking them back together, do not allow them to meet like this. Slowly they will. And then once you have a physical barrier, then you remove physical barrier. You have you have baby gates where they can see, but they can still not go after each other. Allow them to sniff, etc., etc. It's a slow process. Give it some time, I will say. And this is there's a reason I'm saying this is here I'm under the impression that we don't know how the dogs are, and the dogs are, let's say one dog is not okay with another dog. Obviously, in some cases you will just start walking the dogs together and both will start wagging their tails, they'll be okay with each other, etc., etc. Then it's all right. But keep an eye on both the dogs for some time, right? From anywhere, I will say anywhere between a week to a couple of months, just keep a very, very close eye, because you don't want any fights breaking out either for food, for toy, especially the new one, because you don't know what is the behavior, what is a dog possessive about, not possessive about, whatever, right? Till such time that you're absolutely sure about. Do not expect miracles to happen overnight. In some cases it happens. I always like to go in for the bigger one, which is basically give it some time, that things will probably have to take in time. If you think, and sorry, my last thing is, if you think that things are just getting very frustrating, but you still want to give it a shot, I will say give it a shot. Do not give up so quickly. Is that try and see if you can board the new one someplace. If you know that you want to bring this dog in, try and board the other dog in a boarding facility where the dog start getting used to basics, right? Seeing other dogs, getting fed on time. I don't know where this other dog, right? If it's abandoned, or it's an indie, it's a streety, right? We need to figure like a lot of these things out. Give them that time, then start doing introductions slowly, right? Maybe meet the dog 2-3 times with your dog, right? 2-3 times in a neutral environment, and then slowly go from there. In some cases, it just doesn't work out, and I think that can be the hard truth. But be prepared for that also. But do not give up without giving it like a complete time. Do not expect overnight that things are just going to, because like if you ask me to become friends with someone because you introduce me, I may or may not like that person, right? I need to give some time. Sometimes after a point in time, we probably warm up to people. Dogs also take that time, so give them the benefit of doubt. Preeti, your experience?
Mine, all of this comes from personal experience. So I have 10 dogs, but all my dogs don't live together. And I'm lucky in as much as that I have the space to be able to separate dogs as required. But it's very, I agree with all of the things that you're saying. It takes time. Every time that there is a new dog that has come into the home, into our home, it has always taken time for the equations to build. I've had, like you said, there have been situations where in the first scenario when the dog came in, the other dogs were not willing to accept this dog, or this dog was, being a little nitpicky and not being very nice about being around the other dogs. And in most cases, so 7 of my dogs actually do live together, which means in 7 out of the 10 cases it worked. But in the other 3 cases, it didn't work. So there's a pom that I found on the street maybe almost 2 years back now, and she must have been a 9 or a 10-year-old dog when we found her, which means she must be like 12 years old now. We've tried multiple times. We've tried multiple things. We walked them together. We've tried all of that. But very, very clearly, she does not like other dogs. There's only one dog that she likes, and that's my neighbor's dog called Nawab, who's a Saluki, unneutered Saluki. That's the only dog that she thinks is, God's gift to mankind. All other dogs are taboo. So there isn't really much that I can do about that. But what we have done is we have segregated our house. So the upstairs belongs to her and the downstairs belongs to the rest of the dogs. And even there, she actually likes to live in my daughter's room. So we have very, 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 very strict rules in our house. There are gates that are always kept shut. There are times when I have put physical locks. So if I have to go upstairs, I have to actually take a key and unlock a gate just to get to my bedroom and out, even if it's for 3 seconds. And so the effort involved is very high because it can take a split second for something to end up going wrong.
Right.
And you have to be so careful about that. And again, I'm going to say the only reason that I'm able to do it is because I have the experience to do it, and I have the will to do it. To say that I am going to be. I have the space, the will, the experience. But I have all of this. I have so many things working in my favor to be able to do this. So if you are in a situation where you have 2 dogs and after having tried everything, it's not working out, I think for the betterment of both the dogs and your own peace of mind, for your dogs, the peace of mind of both the dogs and your own, it's better sometimes to just accept that, this is not working. Maybe we should just, one of them needs to go into another space where they will be better off rather than being in this space and stressed out all the time. It can be difficult to accept that. It can be difficult to kind of absorb that because we put so much of it, right? Especially when we've rescued a dog that we brought home. We want so much to make everything right for that dog. It can be difficult to accept that. But that's not defeat. It's just accepting that it's not working out and therefore ensuring that both of them have a better life.
Again, Preeti, because you made that point, right? I have a question. So usually when we bring in rescues, right, we tend to give more of our attention to the rescue because we're trying to understand the dog, we're trying to make the dog comfortable. Does that impact the dog that we already have? The attention that we give our own dog all the time is now being divided into 2 dogs, right? And maybe a little more is going towards the one we adopted. Does that have an impact?
So I firmly believe that dogs with each other, when they are left alone, do very well, and we are the ones who cause the problem. Right? Problems within doggy relationships happen when we step into the picture. And the moment that you're bringing another dog in, you're so caught up with, this new puppy or this cute dog or this rescue dog, I'm so feeling so bad and I'm doing all of this. The moment that you start to ignore or not pay enough attention to the older dog, you are creating a situation where where your older dog is going to look at the new dog as an intruder. Okay, so there is no need then for your older dog to accept, or there's no desire for them to accept the new dog. It is very, very important, I think, to be impartial about this, as much as it may feel like you are being cruel to the new dog. I think that ensure that your older dog is doing okay. is the primary concern, must be the primary concern, because otherwise you can forget about the second dog completely.
Got it. Anand, anything you want to add to that?
No. I think Preeti pretty much hit the nail on the head, right? She's covered all bases there.
All right. Okay, so in that case, we'll take up a very relevant question at this point asked by Shilpa, Shilpa Suravi Tripathi. Shilpa says, I have a 1.5-year-old Shih Tzu male, and she wants to know if it is a right time to adopt another male dog. Rather, should she bring in another male dog? As she heard that male dogs can get aggressive towards each other. And in addition to this, Shilpa also has a second question, where she's asking, what is the ideal age of the second dog that she should bring in? So her Shih Tzu is 1.5 years old. It's a male dog, and her question is, should I bring in another male or female? And what should the age of the dog I want to adopt be?
Anand, I'm going to take part of that and then I'll hand it over to you.
Sure.
I'm just dying to put this out. So Shilpa, I think before that question can be answered, there are other questions that you need to ask yourself. First and foremost, I would think that I would want to, the first question that you should ask yourself is how well trained or what is your relationship with your first dog? Is your training complete? Are you in a situation where you can completely and totally handle your 1.5-year-old dog? Because if you get in a second dog, when you are in a situation where your first dog is not completely manageable, you're in so much trouble. Oh, you're in so much trouble there. So you really, really want to be very, very sure about that. I think 1.5 is still slightly young. I would probably wait for at least another 6 months to a year before getting another dog, because I would want my first dog to have matured, to have settled into himself, settled into his personality, settled into the home, be comfortable with who he is, and be very, very, very comfortable with me and have a good, fantastic relationship with me. I think I would, look at those things before I think about getting in a second dog. I'm going to leave the rest to you, Anand.
Yeah, thanks, Preeti. No. So I think some of the critical ones Preeti has already touched it, right? What I also just want to, maybe I will touch the other part of it, saying, I think you had asked, Shilpa, what is the...
should she bring in another male dog or a female dog? And Preeti address the age part. Maybe you want to address the gender part of the question.
Yeah. So there's nothing, I have seen male female getting along, male getting along, female getting along. I've also seen the reverse, right? I have seen mother and daughter not getting along, sisters from the same litter not getting along, right? Two females not getting along, right? So there are various permutation, because it comes back to, again, personality. But this is my take, right? So if the reason why they have these is one is the personality, right? If there is a dominant dog, or a dog has got resource guarding issues, etc., another one is going to just add to that, right? However, the other thing which perhaps is not even in their control is the whole hormonal thing playing, right? So if the dogs are unneutered or unspayed, there are certain things that they do not have control on, right? So the males will continue to look for mate, and if there is a female in question, and then there is a fight that breaks out. Similarly with females also, this can fairly happen. So as long as you can get that out of the equation, which is what I mean by that, is if you can get them sterilized, if you can get your boy sterilized, then, because that is not there, right? Then he is no more at a point where he's trying to go out and mate, so he doesn't need to compete with anyone. He doesn't need to show that he's like a dominant one, none of that, right? Because then he just becomes fairly homely. Then it is about, it really doesn't matter whether it's a male or female that you bring in. Just make sure that one is also sterilized, spayed or neutered. But energy should match, right? If your dog likes to play for 6 hours in a day, do not bring in another one that likes to sleep for the same amount of time, right? So it has to be an even equation. He should be able to, if he likes to play for, if he's a very active kind of a dog, find another dog that will match his energies. Try and keep the sizes fairly similar. I'm not saying it has to be the same breed, but try and keep, because you don't want to. I see you have a Shih Tzu, right? You don't want to bring in a Saint Bernard, right? Because the Saint Bernard will just be playing and of he's playing and tail starts wagging, and your poor Shih Tzu will get caught in that. So try and bring a similar size dog, similar personality, similar energy levels.
Thanks for that, Anand. Meena, Shilpa, and Sachit, hopefully we've answered your questions. Please feel free to reach out to us offline as well if you want some more questions answered. All right. So moving on, I'm going to pick on the point. Okay, we have a question before I move on. I'm planning to get a pet dog, but I'm not sure whether I or my family are ready for it. I don't want to abandon them. What should be my questionnaire before taking the decision? So I'm just assuming that this is your first pet, Prabhu, and you just want to understand how you can decide whether you should have a pet or not in the first place. Anand, do you want to quickly touch upon that?
Yeah. Okay. So Prabhu, this is what we recommend, right? And being in having various kinds of dogs over the last 30 odd years, we have made a share of mistakes, right? Combined, right? I think we have all made a share of mistakes. We have gotten some dogs on an impulse, and we figured that, okay, something is not okay, didn't match with my lifestyle. The energy levels of that dog does not match with mine. So it is not I will say that it is not a very simple thing to say, okay, I want to bring a dog, and what are the things, right? And I was watching a webinar the other day, and then somebody was telling this, and I thought that the example was very, very relevant. She was saying, like, even inanimate objects like cars and homes and things like that, which we can easily sell, give away, right? There's no emotional, I don't see too many people having emotional connects, but you can give them away, right? For that also, we go into so much of detail, right? We go into details of finding out which one suits me, what is the mileage of this, how much will this one, what are the interiors, how is this, where is it located, like you
phone for that matter, right?
Phone for that matter.
Yeah.
Absolutely, right? So bringing in a dog into your life, which is going to be a part of your family, and I guarantee that you will get super attached to the dog, right? Because it shows from the statement you are absolutely sure that you do not want to give up. So you're in no haste to bring this. You have to go through a lot of things, which is basically, first is find out your own personality, your own as a family, right? As a family, what do you guys do? Are you indoorsy, outdoorsy people? How much time can you afford for the dog? Who's going to walk the dog? Who's going to feed the dogs? Affordability is like a big criteria. Do you want a small dog, big dog? Do you want a dog with fur, less fur? Do you want a dog that ideally will bark little, does not bark? Like, there's just so many permutation that you can, but consult someone who can sort of walk you through all this, right, before you jump into this. I'm sure, right, if you're looking to adopt, the NGOs will probably ask you all these questions, and then they'll match you with the right kind of dog that is available there. But let it not be something that you have not done enough research. I remember I waited for 2.5 years before I could bring in one of my dogs. 2.5 years. But it really, right, even to this day, I feel that was really one of my best decisions. So just do your research, right? So try and understand, talk to as many people, meet the professionals, talk to them, visit shelters, spend some time. You'll probably figure that out.
Thanks, Anand. We're almost on top of the hour. So I'd like to tell my audience that Anand and Preeti are available for offline consultations as well. Please get in touch with us if you'd like that. We also have courses on the Alpha website for pet enthusiasts and people who want to make a career out in the pet industry. Do get in touch with our team. Okay, so moving quickly on, Anand, a very important question regarding how well trained should your first dog be before you bring in your second dog, or does training even matter?
Yeah, absolutely right. Having been training dogs for a very long time now, I definitely believe that whether you want to bring in a second dog, third dog, or not, the dog that you have at home should have some basics, right, in place, right? training can still be a stretch, but basics, right, should know some amount of discipline, because for our kids, we do give them love and discipline in equal proportions, right? So why is it that we end up overcompensating with our dogs, and we do not we give them only a lot of love, and we end up pampering them, because that's not okay for them, because we end up putting in the wrong kind of expectations in their mind, and that's when things start going wrong, right? So for me, first and foremost is it should be a good bonded relation. It should be an even relationship, right? Where for all the things that you are doing for your pets, he or she should have, right? It need not be in the strict sense of, oh, my dog will sit when I tell it to sit and come when I tell it to come, and not like that. It's a bond, right? So you need to have a strong bond built, right? There are times when these things can be lifesavers. Most of our dogs don't have a sense of right, if we are out on the streets, they don't have a sense of traffic, or they don't know who to jump on, who not to jump on, right? Those are things that we need to put in place, because we also live with people who also are not okay with dogs or pets or whatever, right? So training is absolutely important, all the more for when you bring in a second dog, because when you bring in a second dog, if your first dog is trained, a lot of behavior, all this will get rubbed off on the second dog, right? So the amount of time and effort, and it personally, it's always worked. I think I trained one of my first dogs. After that, it's just gone on. The chain has just continued, right? I've not spent that much time in training the second, third, fourth, fifth dogs. They've all just sort of learned from the older ones. So if your first one is not trained and again, I use the word train in a very loose sense of speaking, but should have that bonding, right? If you have that bonding, then that bonding will pass on. If that bonding is not there, imagine you have two naughty kids in your house who are going to be causing a lot of havoc. So I wouldn't recommend that. I wouldn't believe that should be it. So training or the bonding is absolutely important with the first one before the second one comes in. Preeti, your take.
I completely agree with what you're saying. And I think we've said it quite a few times actually also during the session, right? That making sure that your relationship with the first one is absolutely, sorted is so important before you get the second one. Otherwise, you're just compounding problems. And just like you said, Anand, I think the last time I trained one of my dogs was 20 years back. And it's I don't remember why I've actually spent time training dogs after that. They've just, that discipline, so to speak, is something that has just kind of moved on from the next dog to the next, because they've always added on to the previous, and there's never really had a problem. But I must say one thing. In the course of the last, say, 5 to 7 years, when my life got really hectic and I started doing a whole lot of other stuff, two dogs that I didn't end up spending enough time with, okay, as puppies. And so this is so important. So in spite of the fact that, yes, the newer dog learned from the older dog, there is still this entire effort that goes into ensuring that the newer dog is sorted also. And I didn't put that effort into the two new dogs. One is my Irish setter, Crimson, and the other is one of my wirehead Dachshunds, Lilu. And the disaster that occurred by the time they were like a year old was so clear to see, and I was so shocked because I'd never had that happen to me. And I was suddenly faced with these two dogs that were not very responsive to me, were not doing the things that I was automatically expecting of all my dogs, because I had put so much of time and effort into my other dogs. It required me to pretty much stop everything that I was doing, understand that there was a problem, take those two dogs out separately. As in, I would take Lilu out separately, I would take Crimson out separately, I would work with Crimson. My daughter Arya started working with Crimson. Same thing with Lilu. There was so much more work that we ended up having to put in. What if I had done as when the dog was a puppy, I had to do 5 times that, because things had kind of gone so terribly wrong. So training is such an important part, and you can never, ever miss out on it. Crimson and Lilu are sorted now. Yes, they're definitely sorted. But I had to put so much of time and effort to bring them to this point when I needn't have done it if I had just put that effort in the beginning.
Absolutely, I agree.
It's Padma Shri, one of our pet buddies, has actually commented saying, you should bring up your pets just like your human kids. Be stern with them when you need to be nice to them when you have to, and stick to your commitment to taking care of them forever. So with that, I think we will wrap up our session today. Anand, we've received some help from Singapore.
Yeah, so can I just say this? I know I see Terry there.
Yes.
So today happens to be Terry's birthday, so I'm going to wish him online here. So Terry, very very happy birthday. I don't think we have got.
Happy birthday to all of us.
Yeah, so just wanted to say that Terry,
Sure.
you owe me a big one.
We also have Linus, who's saying hello from Singapore.
Hey, hi Linus.
All right. Okay. Thanks so much for your time, Anand and Preeti. Guys, please feel free to get in touch with us offline if you have more questions. We are here to answer all of them. Thank you for participating and have a good day ahead. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Bye, Antlina. Bye, Preeti.
Bye.
Bye.